Welcome to the HyperFast Show, where we believe unlimited growth in business and life is created by surrounding yourself with people who have been where you are going. Learning from others allows you to compress time and grow hyper fast. And now, here are your hosts, Keri Shull and Dan Lesniak. Keri and Dan are real estate developers, best-selling authors, billion-dollar agents, and million-dollar agent makers. And now, get ready to grow hyper fast.
Hey guys, it's Keri Shull. I am here at the HyperFast Podcast with Sam, one of my good friends who has scaled an incredible brokerage, like just off the charts growth. You guys have been in the top for the Inc. 500 for what?
3 years in a row, 40 or above. Well, above 40, so.
That's insane. So
thank you.
There's so much to learn from you, and one of the things that I appreciate about you is you're one of the best connectors I've ever met on the planet.
Thank you.
So I know so many people that are dear to my heart and important to me because of you.
That's awesome.
So the first thing I want to talk about is just how you've managed to get in relationship with so many incredible entrepreneurs and keep having them add value to each other. That's a skill that not many people have.
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for the kind words. And I'll tell you that for me, it was a combination of a couple of things, but I never went to college. I mean, I was like enrolled in college so that my parents saw the checks being cashed, but I actually didn't go to class. I was just hanging out and partying. But what I did do in that time is I spent a lot of times in seminars, and I had like an unconventional education, if you will. And I remember at a young age in these events, mainly because of a sense of insecurity, about like wanting to be somewhere that I'm not and not sure if I'm cut for it. I remember thinking all I have to do is like learn how to fit in with the person in the front of the room. Yeah. And if I could just make the person in the front of the room love me by giving them what they want, then I'm not like everybody else in the room to them. So from a very young age, I just spent, very young meaning like 18, 19, which is about half my life, I've been in seminars, and I would just try my hardest to build relationships with the person running the group. And over the course of time, I've built really good relationships, and what I've found is I get more from my network when I pour more into my network. Yeah. Which is why it's taught me to be a connector, right? Like in conversations, I'm always saying, well, this person does this, and that person does that, and if I can make those connections, everybody wins.
Absolutely. So you talk about giving value to the person in the front of the room. There's a lot of people who are watching right now that are afraid to even talk to the person in the front of the room. Yeah. So how is it that you managed to figure out what would be valuable to them and then find a way to provide that value? Great
question. I'll give you some thoughts and an example.
Okay, cool.
So you have to remember that the person in the front of the room, everyone that comes up to them is asking for something.
Yeah.
They're like, yo, I'm here, I want to be there, you said this, how can I do that? Can you sponsor me? Can you scholarship me? Like, it's all like asking for something.
Yeah.
And at a young age, from a mentor of mine, Greg Reade, he taught me that if you give first, you'll always receive more in return. And it just made logical sense to me, probably because of the environment I grew up in, my parents, my family, super loving, super giving. So it started with that thought process, and then someone along the way taught me a great question to ask. And imagine you're the person in the front of the room, you speak all the time, you get off stage, everyone comes and says, how do I do this? How can I do that? Right? Yeah. Which is great, and that's why we do what we do. Yeah. And then someone comes up and says, hey, Keri, you just really impacted my life in that hour that you had on stage. First, I wanted to say thank you. But two, like, I'm wondering, what are the most exciting things you have going on that I can support you with? And you're going to be like, in the moment, you might feel like, oh, cool, this is awesome, this is not, but you're going to remember that person more than everybody else, right?
Absolutely.
So that has always been my approach and still is. And then I try to essentially stalk the person I want to build a relationship with. And we'll talk about Greg Reade. Greg Reade wrote the new Think and Grow Rich.
Okay.
Approved by the Napoleon Hill Foundation. He wrote it with them. It's called 3 Feet from Gold. The guy runs a seminar called Secret Knock.
Okay.
Which Inc. 500 rated like the #2 event, right? For entrepreneurs.
And what's amazing right now is I love Sam. I talk to Sam all the time, and I didn't even know this.
Okay, cool.
So I'm learning from this podcast a lot too.
There you go.
I need to go to that. I feel like I've been left out for all this time, not knowing.
I'll make an intro.
Okay.
So here's a cool thing about it. I'm in an event. Greg Reade is a guest speaker. He's coming and he's talking about, this is 10 years ago maybe, how he's going to write this book called 3 Feet from Gold. So I became a fan. I start following him and I just make myself known. Hey, how can I help? Whatever. And then where the magic happens is I'll do some research on them and send them a very pattern interrupt type gift.
Okay.
So what Oliver and I sent to Greg is we went and got a plaque made, and we got a custom made golden shovel and put it on the plaque with a little like note on the plaque that said, thanks for being an inspiration to all of us that are just 3 feet from gold, your friends Sam and Oliver. Sent it off, didn't hear anything, but 2 weeks later I walk into a little room like this for dinner I got invited to, and he's sitting at the end of the table, and I walk in and he jumps out of his chair in front of everyone and says, that's my brother, that's my rock star Sam Khorramian. And then it like hit me, I'm like, all right, like if I give and I interrupt pattern and I go above and beyond, I can make relationships with almost anybody. Yeah. So we've done that. And, we did our thing with Billie Jean yesterday. One of the notes on my to-do list today is like, what can I send Billy that's obnoxious? And, it's got to be awesome. It's got to be
really obnoxious to break his pattern.
I'm thinking like a huge, like the world's biggest trophy or just like a big cutout.
It's got to be a prop that he's going to use in a video.
So maybe his face. He loves putting his face on there. So, but that's the deal is like, how many times does Billy have people come in and take, never try to reciprocate, and then they're gone and all they do is ask for help.
Yeah.
Which is great, and that's his role, but I think I'll get more from him if I interrupt the pattern in which most his students. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, that is incredible advice. And you guys can use this advice not just with public speakers, right? They can use this for the person who's the connector in their town to all of the teachers or all of the firefighters, or it's just a way of building relationships that you can apply to any relationships that you want to build in your life. And you know what's funny? How we met? You kept reaching out to me on Facebook.
Yep.
And I don't do well responding to Messenger, so if you've messaged me and I've never responded, I'm so sorry. But Sam was sending me messages, and somehow you caught my attention, and I'm like, who is this guy? And you're like, yeah, people keep like bringing us up together. We had a conversation. Next thing I know, I'm on an airplane flying out to San Diego to attend an event, right? So it's also, you're fearless when it comes to when you recognize someone that you want to be in relationship with. You will be in relationship with them, right?
Absolutely. And, I think a lot of listeners, I know myself, I know you, we're always looking for the shortcut. And as you get further along in business, you realize there are no shortcuts except for relationships.
Yeah.
Like relationships are, something that really can't be taken away unless you do it on purpose type thing. Like relationships last forever. They can be leveraged forever. And, just that one connection where someone brings you to someone and you speed up that time from that, to me, is one of the biggest competitive advantages, is coming from abundance and focusing on relationships, because that makes everything speed up.
Absolutely. When I think about I met you probably a year ago.
Yep.
Right? And when I think about my own career and compressing time, there are a few things that were incredibly impactful. So the first closing table, I thought, and if you guys don't know, some of you may not know about Closing Table. Why don't you tell them about Closing Table and kind of why you've built it and who it's for?
Sure. Thank you. Closing Table is at its core a room for the strongest professionals in real estate to get together a few times a year and share major accomplishments that we can all learn from, get help on major challenges that they can break through, and also a place to really stretch the way we think. And, just because of the last meeting, now you and I are looking at like major multifamily plays and different things. So all of that, but more importantly, it's to be able to rub elbows with the people in the industry that are really making things happen, right?
Yeah.
So we get together a few times a year to have fun, to think hard, and ultimately leverage each other's brains and relationships to shortcut that success as much as we can.
Absolutely. Well, and so we have this random conversation, we connect, next thing I know I'm on a plane, because I think the event was like 2 weeks later or something after we first talked. Yeah.
That's very your style, though.
Very much. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay,
All right,
I have to be there. This guy seems really cool. I'm going. But if I didn't take that leap, for anybody who's listening, I would have never met Sharon. So Sharon helped me change my conversion on our listing process and increase our conversion by almost 50% in 90 days.
Which is huge.
I mean, it's huge. We went from having like 40 active listings to at one point we had over 100. And that was all because of a mindset shift in how we were doing things and then just action, right?
You know, real quick while you're on that topic, I don't think that the average person understands the power of conversion. I mean, if you really think about it, for Keri to go from, let's just say, I don't know what it was, but I'll just use 40% conversion to 80%, right? If you could double that, that means that for the same effort, the same spend, the same frustration, the same everything, now the team's making twice as much money. That is the ultimate secret weapon in business.
Yeah.
Getting more from what you're already doing. So sorry.
No, that's huge.
The ADD's real.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Squirrel.
And I have it too. But that is a really, really, really good point. So just by being part of that mind share that Sam's talking about, I met Sharon. I learned his listing presentation. I stalked him. I hired him as my coach, right? So all of a sudden, I took all of the tools and I thought, oh my gosh, this is insane. And then the next thing I know, I meet Billie Jean, right?
Love that guy.
And I'm on the verge of, and you guys see now, I'm doing a podcast. I'm doing videos all the time, as is Sam. We both are, because we understand the power of giving back, right? That's what this is. We're having a conversation with you today because we want to contribute. We want to help you grow. And so when you come from that place, Billy makes it entertaining, and he helps you figure out how to reach more people. And so without Closing Table, without acting on that random Facebook Messenger exchange, I wouldn't have met Billy. We wouldn't have been in Billy's office yesterday. And to me, there's just explosive growth that can come from acting on some of what we learned.
Totally. And then also, I believe that in those relationships, like as you're starting to grow this new side of your business, like that's when I say shortcuts are relationships. Like, you know, next thing you know, Sharon gets you on a stage or on Lab Coat stage, or, you know, that's what the magic is. I believe that success really starts and ends in environment.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you put yourself in the right environment, it changes the way you think, it changes the way you calculate. You know, the way I count today is so different than the way I counted a couple years ago because I hang out with people that count way bigger. Do you know what I mean? Like I used to count thousands and then 10,000s, and all of a sudden you're just counting and thinking and looking at things bigger because the environment you're in forces you to do that.
Yeah. Even our conversation, we went to dinner last night and we were talking about it, and we said, okay, multifamily is the next step.
Yeah.
And that's counting in millions and then 100 millions.
Yeah.
And it's like taking the thought process and forcing yourself to push it to a new level. So actually, Sam, you're the first person who really started talking about multifamily with me and got me interested.
Awesome.
And that's what caused me to go to the Grant Cardone multifamily. Between you and my husband saying, hey, we should be thinking in this direction.
Yeah.
And now opportunities coming out of the woodwork.
Isn't that awesome?
It's so cool.
Yeah. You know, there's something about like the law of motion. And I feel like when you get in motion behind things, you start like doors open that wouldn't open. Like you get lucky where you shouldn't get lucky. Like luck follows motion. And I'm starting to see that too. And just like, what has it been? Maybe 4 months that we started to have that talk, and all of a sudden all these things are starting to come to. So yeah, it's really exciting.
Well, and when we think about what that means for everybody who's listening, ultimately there's so much opportunity there, but it's really hard to get access to it. Even though we're thinking about it, we're like, all right, there's some barriers to entry that we're going to have to figure out how to handle. I mean, you're not talking about raising $1 million, you're talking about raising $10, $20 million to get in this game.
Right.
So it's a totally different scale and stretching our skill sets. So let's take a step back all the way to learning from how you decided the concept of Big Block Realty and how to scale it. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Great. So the starting of Big Block was two very different thoughts that merged together. One was we were really interested in being in real estate because that's all we've known. Like I said, I didn't go to college. I just did mortgages and real estate. And so real estate's our jam. And
when you say R, who's R?
Oliver and I, my business partner in Big Block.
Who have become an R.
Yeah, we are now R. So Oliver and I wanted to stay in real estate, but we also were really interested in residual income, which kind of goes back to the multifamily thing, right?
Same concept.
And I heard residual so many times over, but it clicked for me when someone said it like, dude, it's when you do something once and get paid forever. And I was like, okay, like that I like. So we asked ourselves, well, how can we make residual income in real estate without buying a bunch of doors? Because that felt way outside of our zone. And I was like, you know what? I bet we could get agents to pay us $300 a month for 100% commission. And very quickly thereafter, we said, okay, let's start that. So it started selfishly about like the residual income. But then we said to ourselves, if we're going to do this, we're going to pretty much copy, or in a better word, mold our business around other successful businesses that we admire. So the first thing we did is we opened up Zappos' book.
Oh yeah.
Delivering Happiness.
Yes. If you guys haven't read that, you should read it.
It's the hack. It's the hack. You know what's crazy about it, Keri? It's the unquantifiable hack. Meaning like you can't short snippet on what it is. It's about customer service and delivering happiness, and that makes you win the game. But you can't like cross the T and carry zeros, and like you can't build a business plan. You can't see what the ROI is going to be on customer service.
Right.
So because of that, most people don't pour into it harder than they should.
Right.
When in reality, what you want your business to have is that magic touch. And magic comes from things you can't quantify.
Yeah.
And customer service is that thing. So between Zappos' book and the Ritz-Carlton, The New Gold Standard, have you read that?
No.
Oh, it's probably my favorite book. So those two are like, all right, we really have to lean into the new economy, which is about back to kind of what we started with, giving. Like the more you give, the more you get. So we knew that we had a really good model by giving people 100% commission, and then it became very clear that the magic or the noise will be amplified when service is great, right? When they want to sing songs about you.
Yeah.
So we decided to pour really, really heavy into training. And then on the same concept that we've been talking about, we started to ask ourselves, how can we give an agent more value before they join our company than their current broker is today?
Oh, I love that.
Right? Like if I can give you so much value before there's been any exchange financially, like now you're thinking, holy crap, like they've done this, and I haven't even given them $1 yet.
Right.
Like imagine what happens.
Imagine a partnership with them.
Yeah, imagine what happens when I become a customer.
Yeah.
Right? So we started to do a lot of trainings for free, and we were training stuff that, most brokerages weren't training. We started doing free events and inviting everybody in, where traditionally in the brokerage world, it's like, you can come to our event if you're with us, but if you're not with us, you're almost against us, right?
Uh-huh, totally.
So we just did things our way and created, lastly, a culture that we wanted to be a part of. Like I'm not the average typical broker, like in the sense that
no, you're not.
First of all, I'm not a broker. I'm just the CEO of the company. But like I don't wear suits and ties. I have tattoos. I like to have a lot of fun. And I created an environment that I wanted to be a part of, knowing that there was other weirdos like me out there, right? And it just so happened that there was a lot, and and we've had a lot of fun with it. And then the last thing is, I was born into real estate through Mike Ferry, and what that taught me was that good salesmanship fixes every problem. So we stepped into the recruiting game. I mean, at one point when we were starting, I had a sales floor of up to 10 people that were just dialing every day to make calls. They weren't recruiters. They weren't like most of them never even spelled the word real estate, if we're being honest. I don't mean that in a bad way. They were just...
you didn't need that.
I just needed people to hit the phones and set appointments. And at the time, we were one of the only people that were doing that. Like traditionally recruiting, and it still is a lot of times, like you hire a really good recruiter that goes out and headhunts, where I said, no, like it's about prospecting. Let's make enough calls and making enough noise that eventually people will start to pay attention. So yeah.
Well, and you've also done some really other in-culture, incompatibility with who you are, things to get attention for the brokerage. So what are a few of those things? I'm thinking like, cruises and cars. And
totally.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because the traditional brokerage is boring.
Totally. The traditional brokerage is boring, and real estate is really quite boring, right? So back to creating the environment, this happened again in a mastermind where this first thought came up. We were with Corey Boatwright, who you met at Closing Table.
Yep.
And we started saying, okay, at the end of the day, what Big Block is at its core, outside of a brokerage that sells real estate, we internally are recruiters, right? We are in the business of recruiting talent to come work with us.
Yep.
So what industries recruit the best? And we looked at the MLM industry. And we saw that what they do is not only do they sell opportunity, which is clear in real estate, but they made it fun and they made it exciting. And we're like, you know what? If you did this, you would get a car. And if you did that, you would get something else. So we just adopted that into our business. And we started something our second year in the business, which was refer a friend and win a Benz, which essentially is anytime an agent recruits an agent to join the company, their name goes in the hat. And at the holiday party, we pull a name, and that person wins a 3-year lease on a Mercedes.
Pretty sweet, right?
And it makes a lot of noise, right? Like you're giving away a Mercedes, and so that started to work really well for us. I'm actually right after this going to Mercedes to do a deal on the one that for the winter last year.
Nice.
So that helped a lot. And then back to doing what we like to do. I am where I am in business because of masterminds and coaches. So I knew that we had to bring that to the company. And my favorite vacations are cruises. Like I just love cruising. It's my jam. Oliver and I, we love it. So we decided to create a group in the company called Winner Circle, which is the top 5% of the company. And if you join Winner Circle, you get a free 4-day cruise. We pay for it. Everyone goes together.
It's epic.
You do a lot of stuff like that with your team. And we just have a lot of fun on a cruise for 4 days, and we're building relationships. And then throughout the year, we'll do 2 really nice, intense masterminds. For 2 days, we'll take them to, like the Ritz-Carlton or whatever. We'll bring in speakers like yourself and other thought leaders, and we mastermind with them. And what's interesting about that is I have agents come up to me all the time that are in the company and out, but a lot of the ones that are in the company that are, maybe like 5-10 deals away from qualifying.
Yeah.
And their goal is to sell enough homes to get into Winner Circle.
Yeah.
But if their goal was to if they just sold enough homes, they could go buy Closing Table 10 times over.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying? But it's the gamification of it, kind of the casino concept.
Yep.
Makes people want it in a different sort of way.
Well, it's about the competition and knowing that they're a winner, right?
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. So we're always just doing things that for us sound fun, and we try to do things that haven't been done before, because that's how you can make noise and be remembered.
Get some attention.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally.
Very cool. So what would your advice be to someone out there that, they're not building a brokerage yet. They're at the level where, they may have a team. They're trying to figure out how to inspire and how to grow. When you're coaching the teams in your company, what's some of the nuggets that you give them?
Great question. So for me, I'm able to be what I think is a great trainer for our company because I'm a great student. Most of the stuff that I'm sharing is coming through me in my voice, but from something I've learned prior, right? So more often than not, if I'm teaching in front of the class, I'm looking at notes from a past event or whatnot and just sharing it. But I'll tell you, in the one-on-one environment, and what I think is the most important for anybody, if you're producing at Keri's level or just getting started, I believe that the ultimate unfair competitive advantage over your customers is conversion and salesmanship. What I mean by that is, I think one of the biggest, and you might not like me saying this, but I just got to say it.
Be real.
I believe one of the biggest disservices that our industry has done to agents is give them the ability to have leads or buy them without yet having the skill set to acquire them on their own.
Okay.
When I got in the business, I couldn't call Zillow and buy leads. I couldn't call Realtor.com and buy a zip code. I had to learn how to have communications that could help me turn people into leads and then prospects and then clients and closings.
Yep.
So what happens is, I believe when you're a brand new agent in the business, if going uphill is towards winning and going downhill is towards going out of business, every business you start, you're headed downhill, right? When you're new, you're headed downhill. So now I'm going downhill, and then I'm buying leads that I don't know how to convert.
Yep.
I'm just going downhill faster at this point.
Right, because you're bleeding out of money.
Yeah.
And your confidence is really, really shaken.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I believe that the best thing you could do is, yes, buy leads, but buy leads when you've built the skill set, the work ethic, the understanding of how to communicate, follow up, and convert, because that is the ultimate competitive advantage. NAR says the average agent converts 2% of internet leads. Okay, so let's just say the leads cost $100 a pop. I buy 100 leads. I'm spending 10 grand.
Yep.
The average agent closes 2, and let's say their commission is 10 grand. They made $20,000. If you get a hold of 100 leads, you're probably converting at 7-8%, maybe more, maybe less. But we both spent 10 grand on 100 leads.
Right.
I made $20,000. You made $70,000.
Yep.
Do we have a lead problem or a lead conversion problem?
A conversion problem.
We got a lead conversion problem. So don't allow people to tell you that the business is about leads. The business is about communication that in turn helps your prospect feel comfortable and confident in working with you. And that's never going to change.
Absolutely. So if they were trying to figure out where to go, closing table is not the right place for someone to go who's trying to figure out how to have the conversation. Like it's a higher level group, right?
Yeah.
So you've been attending seminars for all these years. Where would they go to get the skill set to be able to communicate at the level they need to take their conversion from 2 to 7?
That's a great question. The short answer is we need to send you somewhere that takes the training wheels off. What I mean by that is when you don't know how to ride a bike, it's the hardest thing in the world to do. Until you get it, then you never forget it. For me, if my son was 18, got his license and said, Dad, I'm going to get in real estate, what should I do? I would say, I would go to Mike Ferry's prospecting clinic and I would send him to 2 or 3 of them in a row. Follow Mike Ferry or don't follow Mike Ferry. But going to that prospecting clinic for 2 days, what happens is you are, one, learning how to communicate in class form. And then the second half of the day, you actually get on the phone and start calling with a coach in your ear, helping you take the training wheels off mid-conversation.
Nice.
Right? And then after that, I would follow someone like Keri on a regular basis. Like I would latch on to all of your podcasts and all the education you put out, and I would put my blinders on. Once I know how to communicate, you can follow anyone that has a proven track record and they'll keep you on track. And this isn't a plug for you, it's just the truth. Like you've done incredible things in the business with all things considered. How long have you been in the business?
Thank you. I got in 2010. 2008 and 2010 is when I hired my first team member. So
you've been in for about 10 years, and a good 2.5 of those years you've been making babies
on maternity leave,
right? And for you in that amount of time, with everything that you have going on, to create such an exciting, noteworthy business, I want in my life is I want to listen to people like you, right? And I think that a lot of people get into the business because they want to be their own boss.
Yeah.
And now they have their license and they have it figured out. Remember this, broke people want to do it their way. Successful people want to do it the other way successful people have done it before.
Totally.
Right?
100%.
So I would listen to everything she says and just implement with blind faith, and things will be pretty exciting.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And vice versa. I mean, you're putting out a ton of incredible content.
Thanks.
So if people are trying to figure out how to scale, or if they're at the point where their business needs to go to the next level, like Closing Table has totally changed my life.
Thank you for saying that.
Yeah, it has. And I genuinely mean it. And I tell you it every time I see you because it's just the truth. So
thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to be here
today.
Thank you for having me on. We really appreciate it. I hope you guys got a ton of value out of that. If you have any questions, absolutely feel free to reach out to either of us on social media, and subscribe to our podcast if you want to keep getting all of these amazing updates. Thanks, guys.
See you later.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the HyperFast Show. Subscribe to us if you want to make sure you get the latest and greatest HyperFast shows. And remember, we love reviews. Reviews help us bring better and better guests and improve our shows. So give us the good, the bad, and the ugly. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we will see you next time.